Hello everyone again, this is Kathy Kuntz at Cool Choices. Welcome to our webinar today about results. I'm delighted you could join me. Let me just make things cleaner up here. So the aim today is really to talk about some of the things that we see as trends across our corporate engagement programs and be looking at 2016 data across a myriad of corporate engagement programs. I make that distinction because some of our programs happen in communities or multifamily tenant buildings, and that's not what we're talking about today. These are really workplace engagement programs. And kind of just as a quick background for folks who aren't familiar with us, Cool Choices is a nonprofit. We do work at the national level with entities that are interested in transforming their workplace cultures around sustainability. So really interested in trying to make reducing waste, saving energy, reducing water usage the new normal in their organizations. And to do that, we use a customized online platform, a kind of game-based system where we customize the platform to the local circumstances and then roll out a program where individuals sign up, they form teams with colleagues, and over the course of 6 weeks, they claim points for their sustainable practices at work and home. It really is that simple. Through the course of doing that, in a system that's deliberately transparent, we facilitate conversations and build new social norms, and we'll be kind of talking about those results today. But that's kind of the basics of how the program works in a nutshell. As I said earlier, we're a nonprofit. We are obsessed with results. We don't want to just roll something out there. We want to be sure that we're accomplishing our mission, which is to inspire practices that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that means I would say it's fair to say, obsessed with data. And we have kind of 3 big data initiatives in every program we do. So as people sign up to participate, we do a baseline survey where we're measuring pre-program practices a little bit, we're capturing some demographics, and we're really trying to understand how people think about sustainability at that moment. Then we have the program data. For 6 weeks, as I said, folks are claiming points for their sustainable practices, and we're capturing all of that information about what they're doing and whether or not it was something they were doing before the program started. So one of the things that's unique about our approach is that we're letting people claim credit for things they were already doing, but we're tracking whether that's a new action or not, so we can distinguish what actions were prompted by the program and which actions were pre-existing, which gives an organization better insights into what's going on. And then we do a post-program survey where we get some feedback information, we measure shifts in attitudes. So those are kind of the 3 sets of data we have coming into this. And today I'm going to talk about results that kind of combine pieces from all 3 of those sets. As context, before I jump into results, kind of some of the kind of bigger questions folks often wonder about at this point. First, participation rate. So on average in 2016, we saw a 27% participation. Now that varies pretty broadly across organizations. In some organizations, participation is 50% of the work base. We've had manufacturing settings that have achieved 50%. In other places, in local units of government, in like regional healthcare, 5% is an excellent achievement. And a way to maybe think about participation for your own organization is if you do some sort of corporate wellness program or other employee engagement initiative, usually that's a pretty good benchmark. For most of our clients, I think they would say that participation in Cool Choices was higher than their typical corporate wellness program. So that kind of gives you a way to maybe benchmark that in your own particular situation. The other kind of background piece I'd offer is just a little bit of player demographics in terms of age. particularly when we say this is an online platform, when it's game-based, I think some folks think, oh, that will only apply to people under 30. And in reality, the population that does the most online game playing in the U.S. is women between the ages of 40 and 60. And in general, what we see in our programs is a really solid mix of participants. So people from every age group that's out there in the workforce, pretty evenly distributed. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of kind of who. Let's talk about what they accomplish in terms of environmental impacts, and then we'll talk about attitudes and some of those bigger pieces. So in terms of environmental impacts, remember I said they have an online system, they report their actions. The way our platform works, we want this to be really simple for folks. When a program starts, people have the ability to claim 1 action a day, and then that increases, and so by the end of the program, they're able to claim 4 actions a day. And, you know, some people play absolutely every day, some people don't play quite that often. On average, players report about 65 unique actions. Now we say unique actions because some things like carpooling to work or turning off your computer monitor when you go to a meeting are things people can do every day. So, and we aggregate those into a single action. So on average, they're doing about 65 unique actions, and those actions represent, the new piece of those actions represent about 0.6 metric tons of CO2. Again, sorry, earlier I said we track new versus existing. So we're able to say how many people were carpooling already, how many people started carpooling as part of the program, what are the savings associated with carpooling from people who are doing it for the first time versus people who were already doing it. And just as a way to give you maybe a little bit of a framework for that, so we're able then to say across different categories of resources, what % of actions are new actions versus existing actions. And what you see here, and this has really been true, I think, in every year of our programs, that the actions saving gasoline tend to be more new actions there. And I think to some extent that reflects that we've had a lot less consumer education around things like idling and the impact of speeding or jackrabbit driving on your fuel economy, much less kind of the benefits of biking or walking or carpooling. So there's a lot of room there to reduce gasoline consumption. This is significant for organizations that are thinking about Scope 3 emissions, where your employee commuting is part of what you need to take into account as part of your product life cycle emissions. There's a huge opportunity there because there's a lot of pretty simple stuff that folks can do to dramatically improve their fuel economy. So that's the kind of where the new savings come from and how much savings there are. I want to shift then to talk a little bit about results relative to attitude. So one of the things that we think is really important is getting individuals to have a personal commitment to sustainability, to think sustainability is important to me. So in the baseline survey as well as in the post-program survey, we asked them a question about, you know, do you agree or disagree that sustainability is important to you? And this is data across those 2 surveys to give you a sense of how this works. So the blue is the pre and the orange is the post, and you see in the pre, you've got folks who are strongly disagreeing that sustainability is important to me, and that largely shifts in the post survey to agreement. There's about a 10% shift here across the whole population. Now, part of what's really interesting for us is we ask some questions in the pre-survey that help us assess how interested people are in environmental issues, how strong of a commitment they have to environmentalism. And when we look at that data, when we look at the people who indicate a low level of interest in environmental issues, the shift is even more dramatic. In fact, it's about twice as dramatic. It's about, the first shift was 10%, this is a 20%, 20-point shift. So you've got more people who are saying that sustainability isn't important to them in the baseline, and a much bigger shift in the post-program. This is really important. When individuals say and act in a way that indicates that sustainability is important to them, you've got an opening to do a lot more things with them moving forward as an organization. You've got this kind of personal commitment. Now, the other piece of this that's really important that we also monitor is what people think about what others around them think about sustainability. So it matters what I think, obviously, in terms of, you know, my own commitment, but it also really matters what I think my colleagues think about sustainability, what my extended family thinks about this, because those are super influential peer groups. So on both the pre and post, we ask people this kind of same scale relative to a variety of groups. And here this is agree or strongly agree, just so and you see this really nice increase of about 10 percentage points consistently across my household, my friends, my extended family, and my coworkers in terms of how important I think sustainability is to them. So this is critical. You know, when people think the people around them care about something, they're much more likely to be doing it. When we look at this data, we're pretty confident that a big piece of this comes from the conversations that happen as a result of our program. So participants talk a lot about how the program leads to these conversations. We know from our post-program survey that more than half of our participants talk about sustainability at least weekly at work or home. And I think there's a certain way that because we frame this as a game, because it's fun and people are trash talking, there's a lower risk in talking about this. We've implemented games in some relatively conservative places, and it's okay to talk about sustainability when it's a fun game and people are posting photos of things they were doing, and Roger won a water bottle, and you know, there's a layer of playfulness that kind of transcends some of the partisan politics that sometimes complicate these issues. So you've got folks making word plays on our name and doing other things and talking to each other about, hey, I just learned that if you do this way with your car, you can get much better fuel economy, you should try it too, kind of thing. And so as they have those conversations, they realize that other people care about these issues too, and that empowers them to care more. So there's this really important piece there that's happening that's definitely tied to the conversation. And I think a way to think about that particular piece of this is, you know, you want folks in a really public way inside your organization talking about celebrating, collaborating around ways to reduce waste, to cut the energy consumption, to cut water consumption, all of those kind of resource issues. One of our partners put this really well, saying that what he thought we accomplished in their organization was to get everyone moving in the same direction on sustainability, to get people understanding that what we're trying to do is produce a quality product with as few resources as possible. That's our quest. How do we accomplish that? How do we get smarter every day about what our inputs are to maximize the output? And so that's kind of this culture piece that you really want to inculcate there. Now, there's one other thing that I want to talk about us measuring, and that has to do with overall employee engagement. Many of you are probably aware that there's a lot of talk in the HR community about employees not being engaged. Certainly, there's a lot of talk about millennials and how millennials want purpose-filled work. They want opportunities to be part of an environmental solution in their work. So one of the things we measure in the pre and the post surveys is employee engagement, and we've opted to do that using a single question that correlates well to a list of 12 or 13 questions, just because it's hard to get 12 or 13 more questions into those surveys. So we use this single question that's all in all, I'm satisfied with my job. And here you can see that, again, we've got this nice shift from, and again, this is aggregate data, so from the pre-survey to the post-survey, again, a shift of about 10 points where folks are moving down the strongly agree continuum. And obviously, when we're doing things with a particular organization, we might do a slightly different question that correlates to their own strategies for measuring engagement, but this kind of gives you that on a big scale how it works and where that fits into the whole. Then I want to just, so we're kind of the three categories of results. To just summarize these, we've got the environmental impacts that come directly from the program. We've got shifts in attitudes, increases in conversation about sustainability that start to build that culture, and then the engagement that correlates to productivity, profitability, etc., as per all the literature we've talked about in other webinars. Those are kind of the three buckets of results. We just published a new white paper on this that you can access on our website at the Insights page, where you can download, and the data is a little bit more detailed there. There's more description of some of these pieces, but that's kind of the gist of it. I want to open things up to questions, because I always think the webinars are more fun when you're asking me questions versus when I'm just talking to you. So as per always, you've got that GoToWebinar thing where you can type in questions to the question box. If you've got particular questions about the results we talked about here or other results we didn't talk about here, shoot me a question, and I'm delighted to do my best to answer it. Okay, let me just, someone wants me to say a little bit more about the kind of new, not new actions, and understanding how detailed that information is. So let's take a particular action like carpooling. So the very first time that a participant says, I want to play the carpooling action, I carpooled to work today, I want to claim points for that, our system will prompt them with a question. So that's a habitual action. So it will ask them how often they carpooled before the program started. They'll indicate maybe that they were always doing this, in which case none of their savings is new. Or they might indicate that they do it sometimes, or there's kind of a myriad of choices there that we assign different savings assumptions to. And then in a case like that, based on the number of times they claim that action over the course of a program and the rate at which they were doing it before, we're able to calculate an estimated savings that we can attribute to things they weren't doing before versus things they were doing before. So if Amy says, I was always carpooling before, and claims points for carpooling, we don't assume there are any new savings there because she was always doing that before. If John says, I carpooled today and I never did this before, we call all of those savings new savings. And then we are able to, in the final pieces, break that out in terms of what savings are new and what savings are not new. I am thinking, yeah, so shoot me another note there if that didn't, and then, you know, we can aggregate that up. But we can and do provide data at the granular data at the action level in some cases. So, for example, we might say, so which actions had the most people doing them for the first time during the program? Which actions were all the people already doing? And you want to know some of those things because you're doing all kinds of other messaging. So if it turns out that 80% of your staff who participated programmed their computers to go to sleep for the first time during the program, you've got a big opportunity there because probably the rest of staff who didn't participate hasn't programmed their computers either. Conversely, if everyone who says that they turned off a light when they left a room indicates that they were doing this always before the program, then you shouldn't be communicating a ton about turning off lights except to celebrate that everyone's doing it. You know, that would be a good thing to say everyone clearly is doing this all the time. But it's not a thing to try to get new uptake on if it seems like you've already got really strong uptake. Are there other questions folks have about any of the data we're sharing here today? Kind of a long question answer that I had there. Survey customization. So wondering if that pre and post survey can be customized. I talked about the actions being customized, and the answer there is yes. That sometimes we'll have partners who want particular questions asked in the pre and post survey, maybe about a particular corporate initiative. Maybe there's a particular question that correlates to other things you're measuring that you want to understand. Did the play population here, were they kind of the same population you're seeing elsewhere? Yes, all of that's easily customizable if there's something different you want there. Anything else from folks in terms of questions? I am not seeing anything else. Let me give you another minute to see if there's something that folks are wondering about there. Otherwise, again, I should just back up a... Oh, it wants to let me back up. There. Okay. Just to give you, again, that link for the website where you can download the white paper, and certainly if you download it and you have other questions, shoot me an email. I'm delighted to answer those. Otherwise, I think given there are no more questions, we will close out. It's always our priority to keep these short so you get snippets you can use and you can go off and deal with the rest of your day. So thanks everyone for participating today. Thanks for all you're doing to make sustainability happen in your organization. And have a great rest of your week. Bye.